Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Chris McAway and I'm joined today by Liam Carrigan. I've had to do a little bit of a setup shift there because the old iPad Liam decided it had enough, and given what we just saw in that match, I'm not surprised because I kind of feel the same.
It did a Rangers on you, it died, is that what you're telling me?
It did a Rangers on me and died, yeah, but I think that's a little bit similar to our performance levels today.
Yeah.
Look, I'm conscious of the strength of feeling in the comments, and I'll try and bring up as many of them as I can. Myself and Liam will try not to show our, how we really feel about that match, but that doesn't mean that you
I'll
guys
take that
don't
as a warning. Yeah, okay,
yeah,
right.
you guys can absolutely tell us what you think. Liam, let's just try and break it down as much as we can so
Aye.
far. I mean, I think I can see from the comments actually, and I share the sentiment, a lot of them. Words like bullied, outplayed, no discipline, no structure, no shape. I think a lot of these things apply. There's a lot of people saying no passion, no work ethic. I think I think some of those comments are fair actually. What have you made overall of the performance, and then what? How do we turn this around? We'll get to that, but first of all, I mean,
Aye.
what's gone wrong in that first half?
Look, first of all, if we're just going to look at the goals in isolation, it's defensive lapses, right? Not picking the man up, not getting the first ball. But you've got to sometimes just hold your hand up and say that first goal was just absolute brilliance. It was just a moment of absolute class.
Yeah, it
You
was.
can't legislate for that, right? The second goal, again, brilliant finish for the boy, but you've got to, you can pick quite clear defensive lapses in that. But
Yep.
that first goal was just a thing of, I mean, if it was if it was a Celtic goal, we'd be shouting goal of the season right now. Just give them the award,
It's true.
But I'm not going to do that because I'm quite bitter. So, but look, I don't think this is done. I don't think it's game over yet. But
No,
changes need to be made and need to be made right away.
agree.
So, right, I tell you what, you go first. What changes would you make right now?
So I think at the moment we spoke at the pre-match. We spoke about the need for discipline, but we also mentioned players like Nygren. We know what Nygren brings, but you need to have that energy and that work rate. The engine room in midfield. For me, we've not had it. I think Oxlade-Chamberlain is a good player. I don't think he's had the effect that we'd hoped. I think the game is actually passing him by. I think Callum McGregor's put a good effort in to try and get to grips with the game, but he seems to be a one-man show in the midfield just now, and he's now on a booking. And I think, unfortunately, I would look at a player like Nigro and say, yes, I know that when we're on the front foot and we're creating chances, he can put the ball in the net. It's not what we need right now. What we need is a bit of dig, a bit of aggression, and a bit of energy. And I would be looking at someone like Luke McCowan coming in. I also think Dyson Maeda, who we spoke about, is for me the energy's there, but the final product is not. We had one moment in particular which really frustrated, I think, most of us in the Acsom fraternity when the Oxlade-Chamberlain did, probably the one real moment of quality, brings the ball forward, beats one player, puts a fantastic ball in for Dyson to cross, and the cross goes nowhere. And that's all too often with Dyson. That's the frustration. That's for all the stuff we praise Dyson for. That's always been the frustration. He's done a Dyson. That's the problem. So I'm looking now for someone who can maybe offer something different on that side. So I'm looking at maybe a Tenecti to come in and try and show what you can do, son. The cut inside, the world class goal. We're not hitting shots. We're not putting their keeper under any pressure whatsoever. So I think I want players who are prepared to come in and have a go at the moment, and that's what I think we need. We don't have enough of that at the moment. I want players to go, take a chance, and try and make something happen. There's a bit of criticism about the defence, which I think is understandable. Dane Murray, who actually very early on in the game, I thought made a tremendous decision to go and block a cross. I thought his positioning was great. He gets caught out with a bouncing ball. Can happen to the best of players, but the consequence of it is we lose a second goal. I don't think Araujo covers himself in glory with it, but nor does the keeper. But you're still looking for a defender. It's a bread and butter. You've got to get that ball away. And the fact that we don't, and we go 2 goals down, we've now got a mountain to climb. So I wouldn't necessarily change the defence because I'm not sure bringing somebody like Benjamin Arthur in at the moment. But ultimately, we're losing this game. So if we're going to lose it by 2 goals, lose it by 5 goals, you're going to lose it. Just let's go and have a go.
Let's go down swinging. Aye.
Yeah.
So
Good
I
swing.
agree with you. Leave the defence as it is. But what I would do, hook Dyson. It's just not happening for Dyson today, and it's not been happening for a while, let's be honest.
No.
So get Dyson out and Tunekti on. I would take Adamu off for Shvanchara because I think that's a gamble that Martin O'Neill took, which has not paid off. No. I would also look at possibly, I would maybe give it up until the hour, then introduce Forrest for Yang. Yes, I know it speaks volumes to the dearth of quality that we have to look to a 35-year-old to come and bail us out, but that's where we are. Forrest is the most likely to make an impact on the right. So, that would be the 3 subs I would make. I'd say immediately Tunekti and Shvanchara on, and then bring Forrest on after about an hour, because Yang might still play his way into this game. He hasn't so far, but he might still. So I'd give him the benefit of the doubt. But Dyson's an empty jersey at the minute, and I hate saying that because I love the guy, but by God, he's been rotten this season. There's no good way to say it.
No, and I think you're right. And the thing is, we know what he can do when he's on form, but sometimes I think taking a player out the firing line is the best thing you can do, not just for the player but for the team as well. And I do feel that's that's an area that we're suffering at the moment. Is we're too dependent on keeping players in because of what they've done in the past, but we need to be looking at players who are on form at the moment, and there's not many to choose from. I'm going to bring up as many comments as I can. Fred Williams comes in to say this is all on the board, utterly shameful. I think that sentiment is always going to be there. It's a constant, Fred, and I don't disagree. I think it's I think this is all symptomatic of some really, really poor management at the top. We haven't backed the manager, we've not supported the fans, and the team is lacking, as Liam quite rightly says, the depth of quality within the squad. Scorpion Rising comes in to say rotten squad, rotten performance. Yeah, I think the problem is if you do not add quality to the squad, you're going to suffer, and that's what's happened. Paul Maguire comes in to say Adamu was a gamble that hasn't paid off yet, echoing what you said, Liam, and haven't seen Adamu on the ball enough to see a player. And Liam, you made a good point in the pre-match about the fact that Shvanchara looks like a player who needs to play alongside a partner. Adamu again has looked very, very isolated up there. We're just not getting the balls to him. I also think the central midfield has got a real part to play in that, because at times the space between our players is huge. And Rangers we're giving Raskin the freedom of the park. Mikey Moore is running things, and on the left hand side we're not closing the Rangers players down well enough. And I think a lot of where we've failed to get a grip of the game has been in those areas where these players operate. Why are we not closing these players down?
Lack of urgency. And I'm sorry to say this, but in some places just lack of talent. I think that Rangers midfield have simply been better than our midfield so far. Lack of talent's probably the wrong thing, because when they play to their strengths, the likes of McGregor and Oxlade-Chamberlain should be better than the Rangers midfield. But at the moment, it's the Rangers midfield that are controlling it. I hope today might be a lost cause. I hope it's not, but it might be. But if it is, can we please just ditch this one striker thing and just go with 2 up front? Because it's quite obvious now we've got 2 decent strikers, but who need to be playing as a front 2.
Yeah, so I would agree with that. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the time has come where our reliance on one system and one style of play has now become our biggest weakness, because opposition teams, whether it be Rangers or even teams lower down the league, are reading what we're trying to do, and we don't seem to have a plan B. I mean, the plan A is not working. It is not working, but we don't seem to have a plan B. We don't seem to have the ability. Yes, the team has shown heart and it's shown passion at times, and we have, we've won games late on, but that's not sustainable, as many people have said. You have to get to the point where you start dominating games and you start, winning games in normal time, under normal circumstances. And to be honest,
it gets you a last win at Minner at Kilmarnock. It gets you found out at Ibrox. That's the harsh reality of it.
Absolutely. I'm going to bring this comment up because I really like this one from Mac. It says Adamu should not have been a gamble. I think it's Mawanisi he's talking about there. I know it's not the easiest name
Aye.
to spell, but Mawanisi should have been bought. I think there's a lot of merit in that. When you've got a player who's performing at the level, the main domestic level that you are performing in, right? And now listen, no disrespect to Motherwell, he's their player. He's doing fantastic for them. He's been a real reason for their success, and they are absolutely right to not want to lose their best players. But we should have shown Motherwell the respect by not only recognising that one of their players could come in and do a job for us, but paying what was required to bring him into the team. And the fact we didn't do that is now starting to cost us.
The fact that we were willing to pay a similar fee for Mvuka before we found out he had a condition we didn't know about. It was similar money. What was it? It was like 3 million Motherwell wanted.
Yeah, potentially. I just think you why take the gamble on an unknown when you've got a player who's doing it week in, week out. It makes absolutely no sense. And listen,
we've already acclimatised. That's the big thing. Has already acclimatised.
We've absolutely got no God-given right to go and weaken our rivals by taking their players, but he is a player that absolutely could be doing a job for us at the moment. And we don't have anyone that is putting up the numbers that he's putting on. Jimmy McGregor comes in to back you, Liam. Yeah, spot on Liam. Get my head off. He's doing nothing to the team right now. Unfortunately, yeah, I think that is.
I hate to say it, but spot on, Jimmy.
It's not a case that we don't like the player, but we cannot have passengers in this team. This is an interesting one. It comes in from Big Chick B. What is wrong with Iheanacho? Why is he not on the bench? Yeah, we didn't actually get the chance to talk about that pre-match. A lot of people, Paul John, myself, think that Iheanacho is the most natural striker we've got, but yet he seems to come in for a short cameo and disappear, Liam. It's very, very strange. Somebody in the Acsom group chat said, is that based on appearance fee? It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, it would be very much like the Celtic board, though, to risk 30 million to save 50 grand, wouldn't it? I mean,
it certainly would. And I think that this is the problem. This is a problem. I'm going to bring this in from is that or PJ Macron or PJ Macron. I think, sorry to say, but we have nothing. The board have to take full responsibility for our regression. I don't know where we go. It's so sad to see this happen in front of our eyes. Hail, hail. Do you know what? This is the biggest thing for me as a Celtic supporter, is seeing that reaction. I know how I'm feeling, Liam. You know how you're feeling. We're seeing it in the comments. These supporters deserve better than this. They deserve better than what they're saying. Nobody's expecting us to go out and win every single match, as much as every supporter of every club would want to see that. But what you're looking for today is you're looking for fight, you're looking for passion, you're looking for a bit of heart, you're looking for us to compete, and we're not competing today at all. We are absolutely not competing, and that's a really hard thing for a Celtic supporter who's enjoyed the dominance that we have, right? And people are always entitled for that. But what you're looking for is, if we have that dominance, if we earned that dominance, if we played to a standard and a level that meant we've had all these victories, to allow us to regress to this point is absolutely criminally negligent.
See, the infuriating thing is that you and I, and probably everybody in the chat who isn't a lurker, is going to say, this is a reckoning today. This is as low as it should be allowed to get, right? Massive rebuild needed in the summer.
Yep.
I still don't think the league's completely gone if we lose today, but a lot of people will feel that way, and I'm not going to argue with you because it's borderline.
Yeah.
But I really think that, other teams would take the hint and say, right, we've got to get the finger out, we've got to get the checkbook out, we've got to just stop messing about and rebuild this team. Whereas our board are going to be like, well, we play in a competitive league and, other teams have to win it now and again. It's nonsense. We are the biggest team in this country by a distance, and we should be acting like it. And we haven't been, which is why we're getting found out today.
Yeah, Liam, you need to keep me right in terms of when the game is starting again, because I'm not able to see it with this particular setup at the moment. I'm going to bring up one comment here from The Quiet Man. That's my my late grandfather's favourite film, by the way, The Quiet Man. But 45 minutes to save our season. I mean, there's some merit in that comment. 45 minutes to save our season. We really need to produce something, because even if we lose this game just now, I would never concede that the league is over. But the confidence that we can actually win this league with this squad and the team and the way this team's playing, it's not there. It's not. We need to see something that gives us a degree of hope. And at the moment, that first 45 is for me, it's killed large parts of my hope for the season. So, yeah, it's really not great. Really not great. I'm seeing some comments saying that maybe Hatati's on. So that
I've got to laugh. Someone in the comments just said 2 happy clappers. Do we look happy right now? Come on.
Yeah, I mean, look, we are trying our hardest not to let the emotion get the best of us. But believe me, once the camera's off, me and Liam will be swearing like troopers. That's what happens here, right? It's not.
Yes.
We are absolutely not. I'm not. I don't like the term happy clapper, but I'm not sure there's going to be anybody happy or clapping at this point, right? Within the Celtic support.
Hearts fans will be.
Well, this is true. This is true. All right, guys. Well, look, we are at the 15-minute mark, so I'm going to assume that the game is starting. Ian Roy comes in to say 1 minute in, back on the back foot already. Look, really appreciate everybody that's following the channel, that's sticking with us. We will be back at full time, irrespective of the result. Hopefully, we see something that's a bit more positive, or at least gives us something positive to focus on. But if not, we'll break it down as best we can, and we hope that you join us to do that. So, thank you again for supporting the Celtic state of mind, and we'll see you at full time. Thank you, Liam.
He'll help.